Go. Are you ready? Right. Hello and welcome to episode number 10 of the Chasing Greatness podcast. Joined by Mark Wallace this evening and obviously Phil Milner. There's no Charlie tonight. We have heard from Charlie. Charlie's going to be slightly less frequent than he has been in previous weeks. He's a busy man. He's just got so much to do. Mark, we'll get to you in a minute. We'll just cover Philip. Philip, good evening. How was your week been? Try and start us on a bit more of a positive note than you did in episode 9.
Uh, yeah, it's been an interesting week, really. Two ends of the sport in terms of we had Teak as a puppy really take off on Saturday in his second race. So we've got one just starting that looks like he could be a bit special. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we've had Venus retire, who's just been a fantastic bitch, but we just decided after Sunday that it was time to call it a day with her. She turned 4 in January. So, yeah, both ends of the spectrum in the kennel. And it's been in other news, it's been a slow start to the year with us, and we're just slowly getting into it and ramping up logistics left, right, and centre.
Yeah. And just on Venus, before we get to Teak, because we know what you've spoken about Teak before and how much you rated him right from I think from a hand slip, wasn't it? You said that he's the real deal. But with Venus, tell the story because she actually wasn't really bought as a race bitch as such. She was probably bought with breeding in mind.
Sean wanted a race bitch, so Sean O'Connor owns her. He wanted a race bitch, but he's always got breeding in mind. He's had a couple of litters out of bitches before, and at the time he had a few bitches were offered, and we had a look through the breeding and decided to take a punt on her. She'd been around Shelburne a couple of times, and looked decent. There was one sheezed into third bend, and that was only qualm. And then she arrived in here. Um, I didn't think she was much of a looker, I'm not going to lie. And first trial, I think she got trouble, and then I wasn't there. There was a trial at Doncaster, they're not recorded. And Craig, who was up in the office, said he texted me afterwards and just said she was like a Rolls Royce going down the back. And really, it just took off from there. She is a gobby cow who likes to do everything her own way. She runs fence lines, is a million miles an hour, barks instantly, wants everything now. Um, but when she hit that purple patch in June, and she's a different bitch. I've always said it. Like, there was some sun on her back, and she is just special. Um, and I know repeat mating, Slick Sakina. Patrick says she hit a purple patch as well, and then we'll go off. So I think it's just something in the breeding. So yeah, she was just unreal when she was at her best. That track record, equaling run round toaster, was something special. Yeah, just a
Yeah,
dream to
yeah,
train.
it was good. She was very good, wasn't she, during that Edinburgh Stakes? Like you say, that there was a spell there where it didn't really matter what turned up. She was giving them a running lesson. That
Yeah.
was her that was her time of the year. So Teak, go on, Teak. You were a pleased man. I know you were nervous on Saturday, weren't you?
Just a bit. I stayed at home. I stayed at home with the kids and was pacing the kitchen as always, and a touch nervous. It don't help when Charlie messages first thing in the morning and says what price he's opened up and betting him because he's been jinxing all my dogs.
All the 3-1 is gone. I think the text went or something like that.
Yeah, but it showed like the race the week before was insane for a pup. Like it was
It was. He
nuts.
was in a
And
hot division as well.
yeah, yeah, but he showed an awful lot, and I was really happy with that run. Um, but then that time he did the other day because I mean he's had four bend runs in his entire life, and one of those were before Christmas. So he's just a big raw puppy. There's
Yeah,
loads to come from him, but he's got the right attitude, he's got the speed, he's got the early. He just needs a bit of luck. Now we've drawn pretty hard on Saturday, so
yeah.
and he's a
Again,
and he's a pup, isn't he? So what will be will be.
yeah. Mark, good evening. How are you? That's not something we are participating in. We've not got a puppy this year, but we've got plenty to look forward to this year, haven't we?
Yes, yes, yeah. I just was going to ask Phil. Obviously, Avengate Venus, fantastic bitch on its day, top class, but probably very lightly raced. Was that something that Phil had in mind for breeding to keep her lightly raced, or was there any um, sort of time he thought about suppressing her to get more racing, or what was his plan on the whole side once he knew how good she was? Because she'd be a much sought after brood bitch now.
Yep, she will. uh, no, there weren't really. It were more you just had to go with her. Now she does have quite a bad track leg, and we've had to manage that and a couple of little niggles along the way. And it was more she just hated when she went off the boil in the Oaks in 2024. That people thought like she picked up a niggle, but she just the weather changed. Honestly, she hated coming out. She was just total different bitch. So we just put her away for the winter, and it just works that way. Really, it would just keep her ticking over. I don't think the amount of races a bitch has much bearing as long as you don't pull the guts out like and really make them go. But I don't think it has much bearing in them becoming brood bitches. I don't think there's much in that. So. It was
Yeah.
more just let her show off and thing. So yeah,
So, so your opinion that say a bitch that's had 100 races compared to one that's had 30, it wouldn't make that much difference in your view for breeding, then, no?
wouldn't for me. No, no. There's a lot in the. If you look at the American lines, they'll regularly have over 100 races. Some of them 200 races, and I just think it's in whether the line can withstand it. Now, I wouldn't want to have a bitch with acidosis because I think that really might affect things, but. I don't think you take it out of them. It's down to the DNA that gets passed on, and I've not seen any issues.
And a
Is there
question.
is Go on.
Yeah, sorry, Polly. As I say, fantastic bitch. Venus, one of the best I've seen for a long time. So good luck with everything with her and breeding side. But with the pup, um, you know, how highly do you rate him? Do you think he's going to be Derby class for either this year, or proper Derby class, or you just not have you not seen enough of him to to have that opinion?
I think he's Derby class. I don't think he's Derby this year.
No.
Um, I I so I missed a chunk. I was number one. I wanted to aim him for the British bred puppy in January. That was my first thought. I was kind of rushing him through for that. Because that's where I started Maverick and Goose. When that wasn't in the calendar, things changed a little bit. Um, and then one thing and another, he got a touch of cough before Christmas. The weather went freezing. I couldn't get any work into him at home, and I just ended up a bit behind. Um, so I'd have liked to have had more running into him for him to strengthen up. Where I am now, I won't go Derby. I don't think I can get enough into him for the fitness and the run to the knockoff. I think will be too much for him. I mean, my everybody knows, and it's there's no secret. Edition throws blistering early. He's throwing great early, great chase. Are they a touch short? Yeah. Do I think he's a touch short at the minute? Maybe. I'm adamant it'll come because I know how little work he's actually had. But I think he's potential to be the best I have bred. Like he is. He's insane, and the power behind him is just somewhat special.
Not my
So
bitch that's starting in the D3 then.
Yeah, yeah. And the interesting thing is where do you go with him? But
Mm.
that's the big question because you look at the calendar and after Monmore, you're
Yeah,
struggling
I
a
can
little
see your
bit.
point. Do they have a puppy competition at Toaster during the Derby?
Yeah.
Would you go there with him yet? Because he looks like that 480 is far enough for him right now. In my
It,
opinion, I think. I mean, like you said, he could strengthen up, but
it all do. It'd be nice if there were a puppy over the 460. If
yeah,
that's it. It depends how he comes on. It really does. Now, there is one thing in the back of my brain, and that is to go to Ireland, um, and to take him there. There's the puppy derby, which he is at the upper age limit of, starts in Shelbourne in July, and that'd run straight into the Irish Derby. Now, people would think I'm nuts for having it in mind, but I've also got to try and make a stud dog in Ireland. And so far, all my pups have run in England. I've got the best pup I've had. Like, I've got to try and get Edition known in Ireland as well. So that's also in the back of my brain.
he's making some nice pictures over there, though, isn't he?
Oh
He's
yeah,
doing
real
all right.
nice,
Mm.
real nice. What do you think of him, Matt? Would you go Derby?
Probably not. No, I think he's probably one for next year rather than this year. So, like you say, yeah, it's you don't want to over race him, and sometimes they're just too young for a derby, aren't they? So, and 500 meters will be testing as well. So, it's a bit of a quandary. Once Munmore finished, we've quite often had that problem ourselves over the years, and I mean, Munmore's a great competition, and I think you probably have more of an idea when when that competition is finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, Mark? Because obviously, I mean, I know I'm there, so I'll probably end up asking you some questions here that you're going to think, well, Liam, you know the answer to that because you're there every day. But do you think probably? I mean, you've been known over the years for bringing dogs along quite slowly and getting the best out of dogs, probably between the ages of 3 and 4.5. Do you put that down to sort of the way you do things and maybe the light work you give them during the career? Because I mean, you don't tend to work a dog really hard, do you? Would you put that down to sort of that or something else?
Um, yeah, I think we'd probably be one of the kennels that doesn't have that many puppy competition winners over the years. You know, we we're not really known for having pups that can that take off early in their career and everything, but just get better and better. And yeah, I'd say that's down to we're not forcibly galloping dogs. I look after their races. I like dogs that that can race in competitions rather than loads and loads of one-offs if they're not good enough for competitions. And then obviously they just go in one-offs. If you can pick off a series of competitions, then that's brilliant. But and then I find that the amount of dogs that we have that are still running at their peaks at 3.5, 4 years old is is something that we're well known for, and I'd say you're probably right because they're lightly worked when they're younger.
Do
Yeah,
you look for that? So when you buy from Ireland, because me and Liam have had this a discussion quite a bit, because obviously I gallop, and Liam's not against it, but thinks I'm a bit crazy sometimes. And I'll say a lot of the time I'm bringing a pup through that's done nothing. So because I breed them here, whereas you guys are buying in from Ireland, so they've done their galloping work, they've done their schooling in Ireland. You guys are then buying them from schooling trials and then bringing them through. So you can almost back off them to then kick on. Is it something that you look for regards the breeders, somebody that won't push them too young, too early? Or does it just work out that way?
Now I've grilled you, you're going to grill me properly now, aren't you? So, um, we tend not to these days buy straight from schooling trials. I'd say the majority, especially since me and Mike have done the MWD, have been dogs that have raced rather than these highly touted ones that are coming off the back of schooling trials or one or two trials. So, and I always find that a dog that's had, at least a couple of races, 3, 4, 5 races, they're so much more forward when they come over.
Yeah.
We're almost sort of pulling them back the way we do things, so quite often they're likely to think, wow, how did it do that time in Ireland when it's done sort of an average time to start with us, sort of thing, but and then 2 months later, after it's had 3 or 4 trials and a few races, we can then see, well, that's the dog we had in Ireland. Occasionally we get some that take off straight away. They're probably more the ones, that maybe have had even a few more races, so and again, it depends on their age and everything. So, but I can't remember the last time we really bought too much off just schooling trials. And there's not that many in the amount of dogs that we've had for the MWD over the previous 3 years or so. They're mostly ad races in Ireland.
Yeah. I mean, that pup you guys trialled at Toaster, that was scintillating on Sunday, wasn't it? That was incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, he looks a nice one, I must admit. On the bare form of his card in Ireland, it's we probably wasn't expecting him to go as quick as that. But he's come in and he looks, he looks very forward anyway. He was, he was in great condition, well in his coat and everything. So I wasn't surprised. And we've quickly sort of got him marked up and trialled. We haven't had to wait for the vaccinations were all done properly, so we didn't have to wait for that sort of annoying gap when you've got to get a second vaccination into them, which is 27 days after. So this one could go straight away because they were done properly, So he hasn't had time to laser belt or have that light work. He's gone straight into trials. So he looks a very nice pup. Forgot to tell you, it's a great name, really, isn't it? And he's on his last trial this weekend. We was just thinking it's a shame that we didn't have him maybe 2 or 3 weeks earlier, because he'd have been an ideal pup for Monmore.
Feels delighted. Feels delighted we run out of time.
But I'm eyeing up the I think there's a Hove competition, which obviously is stiff 500, I think it is. So I'm sure there's competition next week.
Does that run alongside the Brighton Bell?
Bell, so I'd say
Puppy Cup. Yeah, category 2.
Deal for that.
Yeah.
Are you not planning on running him in the Derby, Mark?
I wouldn't rule it out. I think he's a July. Is he a July?
May. He's in May.
It goes straight into Derby, though, doesn't it? Because that's the route that Headford Asher went last year.
Yeah.
I think if we had time to use that Hove competition for a couple of sort of races, I wouldn't want to keep him at Toaster now, right through till the end of May, beginning of June, sort of thing. I think there's too many races, so I'd like to see him go somewhere else, and then he'd definitely be part of our Derby team.
Yeah, I mean that final, should he make that final, is Saturday the 25th of April, so the Derby would start on the Thursday.
Yeah,
so you would go straight from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd actually be a good plan for him, to be honest with you. So, I'm never one for looking that far ahead, if I'm honest.
No, you're not.
Do you not plan far ahead with them? Do you just see how it works?
I normally sit down on Monday and plan for the week ahead.
Yeah. Keely, at the start of the year, Keely gives me a list and goes, "This is what I want to try and win."
Trying to win them, but I think you have certain dogs, obviously you got, without sort of talking about them too much, Proper Eris and Mongi's Wild, you're straight away you're looking at the competitions that are coming up over the next month or two, because sometimes it's either this one or that one, isn't it? So I think you know, unless they're that class, then if not, then we just really go from week to week, and I found that's something that's worked really well for us. And you're not, and the other problem with that, whenever you plan too far ahead, or there's always something that goes wrong, and then and then it makes you as a trainer frustrated because it's gone wrong. If you don't plan ahead like that, you're never frustrated as many times. If you get the way I think, like
Yeah. Well, talking of planning ahead, and you mentioned Proper RS, so we'll bring him up. He's having a different preparation into this year's derby, isn't he? Last year he probably went into the derby quite busy. Obviously, a deliberate plan. I know you mentioned it in your paper. Do you think he'll go into the derby this year a better dog than he did last year?
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah, I think even judging by how I see him in the kennel and yourself, and you can see, I actually think he looks a better dog now than he did last year. You know,
Yeah,
I think he just looks magnificent, and he's just that little bit more calmer. You know, it's not until you get your hands on the dog that you realise what such a fine specimen of a greyhound he is. He's just absolutely built like a tank, isn't he? And
yeah,
I think this is his third season, and I think you can adjust the dog's plans. Last year it was busy, not always, you know, something that was what's the word? You know, that we thought we was going to do it like that. You know, it's just the way it turned out, sort of thing. You know, this year being a third season, you have got to look after him a little bit more, and I don't think he could run in that amount of competitions as a third season dog. So I think, you know, straight off the top of my head, and as I say, I don't look that far ahead, but my ideal for him is you know, I really thought Central Park. He's probably so well suited to the Kent Derby rather than Monmore, you know. So we cut the Monmore competition out. That's one less competition, and the Central Park competition is ideal prep then into the Derby. There's obviously going to be no juvenile 2 weeks before the Derby that is going to go in that you know, I felt took too much out of him last year, which is sort of been well documented. But this year I look at that and think, wow, it's the Kent Plate, it's the Derby, and then come back and try and defend his Hove titles and the Eclipse.
yeah,
And if there's an Irish Derby campaign again, then I know Mike would love that, and if it's possible, then maybe that's on the agenda instead of one of those other competitions, perhaps. Like so, that would be his sort of year-long plan, and that's looking at about 5 competitions. And obviously, the Derby is the key one, because I think we can genuinely have a dog that is a little bit fresher this year and can improve through the competition.
yeah. I mean, obviously you've won 2 derbies, but would you say that going into a derby, this was probably your best chance ever before it started?
Um, well, we probably thought that last year, and we probably
Yeah,
said,
it's true. Yeah,
and I think you know, we all said this is the best chance we'll ever win in a derby, and it didn't happen. Like, yeah, so I'll sort of refrain from making those kind of statements this year. Like, yeah, and do the talking.
yeah.
Does he fit your normal training regime, or have you had to tweak things for him? Is he different in any way, or?
No, he likes he loves the routine. He thrives on that routine. You take him out of his routine, and he's not so happy. You know, and Liam can confirm this. Like, yeah, he loves his bed, but he also loves being out in the paddock, and he'll charge up and down. But I haven't seen him tear up and down at paddocks like he at the moment, like he did last year. So I think that's because he's getting a little bit older and a little bit wiser. And like most greyhounds, the older they get, the lazier they get. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, that will suit him even more, being a little bit more calmer. So you know, I you know, been over the dog today, and I just think, wow, he's in such great condition. Like, yeah, he's a credit to everybody at the kennel how well he is and how well he looks, and you know, all we need is that little bit of luck, because I really think we've got a dog that is quick enough to win a derby, but there's so many other factors going to come into it that could
Have you
stop
got
you
a
doing.
favourite run of it? Have you got a favourite run of his?
Yeah, well, I know nearly everybody talks about the Winter Derby last year, the way he absolutely blasted out. You know, I actually thought the best final that he was in was the Kent Plate last year. I thought that was, and those times he did round there was sensational, and he didn't really trap, but his acceleration to the bend was awesome. So that Kent Plate final was my favourite, and obviously it's not that well spoken about, but there's a little bit of trouble in the race. But the Nottingham final, the Eclipse, you know, to break that track there, that's a phenomenal track record there, and I think his new track record could stand for quite some time. So, you know, Hove is just a machine at light, yeah, and he does times that are just unbelievable, like, yeah, and he's just a you know, he's just a fantastic winner there.
I know, Phil, you said, didn't you, that night he broke the track record at Nottingham? You texted me and you said, I can't believe that's been beaten. You didn't even think it'd ever get beaten.
No. It's just been one of those clocks that there's only been a couple of dogs got near it, and the fact that he did it in winter, it was colder. That edge on the night, the air's different. It was just incredible for him to do that, and I think because Freddie got it, didn't he? And Skywalker Logan had it, and I used Logan at stud, and just that run that Logan did was out of this world. Like, he took off down the back, and I just couldn't believe he did it. And the Monmore one, the reason that sticks in a lot of people's heads is because they've gone to dog coverage as well. Like, you had the drone coverage, and just the way he took that out of him to the first bend, that was something else. Like, it's just
I was watching on the telly, and when the boxes come open, I went, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
like you didn't even have to watch greyhound racing to know that he had absolutely flown out. Like, I could have showed my nan, and she would have gone, "Oh god!" Like, that's how good he was from the boxes that night. It was incredible. Yeah, he was special.
What you said about him running around the, like, up and down the paddocks? Do you prefer? Well, I know you prefer one that's calmer. Do you prefer dogs that are calmer in there, or how do you manage it?
Yeah, it's one of those things as a trainer, you know, when you got dogs as quick as him and that kind of class, every time, you know, that they do something away from being on a lead, you know, you got your heart in your mouth, haven't you? Oh, please don't let anything go wrong. Don't, you know, go down a little hole and you know, twist something or slip over or something like that. You know, he really does. But I mean, we've got lovely big long paddocks, you know, and there's, you know, he's at full speed when he's going up and down them. Like, yeah, he loves uh, what's the word? A little tear up. But we don't have dogs in the paddock next to him. You know, that we sort of alternate the paddocks, and you know, there's a gap between each paddock, like, you know, so you know, he can't get up to the fence close to him, but he loves having you know, a little bark up with the other dogs that are out and everything. And I think he's just showing off personally that how fast he is going up and down, like, yeah. So and then when he walks back into the kennel and gets on his bed, he's one of the hardest dogs to get off the bed in the whole kennel. He loves sleeping in his bed and spreading out, and you know, that's the perfect dog, really. You know, only comes alive really when he needs to.
Yeah, I went in there. I went in there yesterday when we put him away from last let out, and I went in there. I went in there to see him, and I opened his kennel door, and he's like, "I'm not coming out again. I know I don't come out again. Like, you must be coming in here because I know I'm not going out." He will get off his bed. So we want to see him. He does know his routine. Sorry, Phil, you was going to say something. I jumped in.
When it was before we had the official license, we had the owner trainer's license. Before we moved here, we bred a litter, and we were living in a house in Derbyshire, and we had some real nice pups. It were Keithel Finn and Keithel Arthur. And Keithel Arthur, we'd let them all into the garden. He'd literally just stand at the gate staring at you, wouldn't run around. And it was really pissing me off. Like, I was like, this dog is the laziest dog ever. Anyway, Keeley emailed quite a few trainers to discuss it, because that's who Keeley is. And Mark probably don't remember, but Mark was the only one that emailed back. And he said, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll be the best in the litter. And I was like, give over. He don't do anything. He's the laziest. It was the best in the litter. He didn't stay, but he just got Sheffield 500, but he was a great dog.
I do actually remember the email when,
Yeah.
you know, and it was, you know, I do get, well, not so much these days, like, but I used to get loads of emails, and you know, if ever I could help anybody, I would always answer those emails, and you know, I thought it was rude not to, like, you know, even if sometimes you know, some of the people didn't like the answers that you give, but I was always as honest as I could be on, you know, and if I could, you know, the one thing that I would steer clear of is when, you know, people say to you over the phone, "Oh, got this wrong with me dog," or that, you know, and you know, I think, well, you know, I'm not being funny. It's the worst thing you can do is have somebody, you know, diagnose an injury or something over the phone, isn't it? Like, you know, that, you know, if you tell them something and they go and do it, and you know, they, you know, could potentially say, well, Mark Wallace told me to do this, like, yeah. So, you know, injuries aside, but if people have got questions about like what Keeley asked and everything, I find it quite interesting, and hopefully, yeah, or as we can see, the answer that I gave was the right one.
Yeah.
I mean, talking of laziness, like, I mean, obviously one of the laziest dogs we've got in the kennel is New Destiny. You
She's
know,
shocking.
Shit.
he goes out into the paddocks, and while the likes of proper heiress are charging about, you know, maybe just two paddocks down, she's just done a business and lying back by the gate, no matter what, like, you know, waiting to come in.
She, she's got about a 70-metre paddock. She uses 5 metres of it for a wee and a poo, and then lays at the gate.
Yeah, it don't stop her, you know, winning 5 category ones, you know. So
Would you then
you know,
lead? Would you then lead walk them all then, or do you just go, that's her? She don't need it.
we'll always walk our dogs leading up to races anyway, like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, not so much for fitness, but more, I always find, you know, that, you know, it's just to look at something different, really, you know, and they just,
Mentally
you know,
good for him, I think.
mentally, yeah, the mental side of giving walks is great, but you know, everybody says, "Oh, you have to walk them, you know, a mile or two every day." That's rubbish. That's not. That's absolute rubbish. That's not mentally stimulating, is it? You know, I think 2 or 3 walks a week is mentally stimulating, and sometimes it's not the pace you go; it's just for them to look at something different. And we're very fortunate at our kennels that you know, we've got a lot of farmland around the kennels, you know, and it's gives them, you know, plenty to look at around there, you know. So it's you know, if you're stuck in a built up area or something, it's not so easy, you know. You have to really put them in your van and take them out to, you know, the countryside a little bit more. That's what stimulates them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're quite handy as well. We've sort of got 3 or 4 different routes we can go. So when they go out, it's not like they're on the same route every single day. So it almost gets boring in that sense. They can mix it up a bit. So it's yeah, it's good. What about the other superstar then? We're probably blessed to have 2 dogs. Well, there's more than that, but Mongi's wild. At the time he's having a little rest at the moment. Is that really just because there's nothing for him, or is that because you just wanted to rest him? What's the plan with him?
Well, I know obviously yourself, you know the ins and outs of our kennel, and you know, the last 2 competitions that he's won this year, which have been fantastic. You know, such a special dog, Monk, as well. But we've had real issues with him in those 2 competitions. You know, he's had a little niggle and little niggle there, but we've got him spot on for those, and I thought, a good rest after those two competitions would do him good. But now, 2 or 3 weeks, or was it 3 or 4 weeks since he won more? He's itching to go. He looks
He's letting us
magnificent.
know about it, isn't he?
Oh dear me, he is now wanting a competition, So this time last year, or not far off this time, we had the TV trophy, didn't we? Well, if that was in the next 2 weeks, I'd be I dread to think what he was capable of doing. So, but we've got a month where there isn't, hardly a race for him unless we, just went for some one-off races, and they're not easy to find. I mean, not being funny, if I entered him at Toaster on a Sunday afternoon in a 710, everybody had, would pull their entries out, sort of thing. With that's. What's the point of running against the likes of a superstar like him? So it's difficult to actually find races for him. So we're probably going to have to give him a couple of trials and then see what's on the agenda. I know Mike's talking about the potential of some match races with Droopy's Flair. Much to some of Kennel staff and particularly Daniel, they're always amazed that I love a match race here and there and everywhere, but it never worries me. I always think they're great for the sport, and I'm never under that pressure. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. Sometimes, it's if it's good for the sport, then I'll always do it. Do people want to see Mongoose Wild versus Droopy's Flair? Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember a couple of years ago, Derby final night. There was no race for Marie Champion or New Destiny, and you and Seamus kind of put your heads together, didn't you? And you said the race, and it'll be one of the funniest moments I think I have there. Not that she couldn't win. I know you didn't mean it literally, but I sat there and you was having a fag at the window at the door, and I said, "This match race, then, Mark." I said, "Can we win it?" And you took 2 drags on your fag, and you went, "No." But we got close, to be fair, and what a spectacle that was.
Yeah, maybe because we knew, that was being brutally honest, but I think James's dog was flying, and New Destiny was clearly waiting to step up in trip, So
she was.
That was probably more my reasoning for thinking that we was up against it. Plus, I allowed them to rails, which Daniel was quite. Why did you let them have the rails? We should have been on the rails, So but the Ballymac Taylor ones were great fun with.
They were good.
The bubbly dog, not being funny. The pair of them were. I'm not going to say they were genuine, but they were typical long distance runners. They were both a little bit kinky, I would say, so there was never going to be much between them, sort of thing, and so you knew that'd be a great spectacle for the crowd, when you see 2 dogs go hammer and tongs and there's nothing between them, so for the purists they probably didn't like it, but for the crowds it put a few people on the turnstiles, which is what we're all here to do sometimes, isn't it? With these you want to try and promote the sport, and if a match race between Mongoose Wild and Droopy's Flair promotes the sport and gets people coming through the turnstiles, then I'm always for it.
It's that
people can say what they like,
isn't it? Between, if there was just Mongoose, and I'm not doing other dogs a disservice here, but if it was just Mongoose out by himself, whereas that rivalry with Flair has actually added something to it. It just bigs it up a little bit, and it brings more to the sport. Like you say, it might not be the purist who can look at clocks or whatever, but it brings people in. They want to watch.
Yeah, I think so. When you've got 2 dogs that go at each other, I mean, you look at Ballymac Taylor and you look at Bubbly Inferno, it was, wasn't it? They went at each other, but it created more conversation than probably most finals did that year. And I mean, people say, well, no, we don't like match race, we don't like this. But when you actually look at the conversation it creates, it's a little no-brainer to happen throughout the year at some point.
Yeah,
I think you have to also remember, if you go back, even the generation slightly before me, sort of thing, the amount of people who wanted to see the match race between Ballyregan and Bob and Skurlock Champ, and the crowd, it was just incredible. If you see the YouTubes on that, and there's obviously some other key match races around. There's always been match races, and I think the Stayers ones are actually more exciting than, say, the any of the four-band ones. In fact, they're mostly of the match races have been between sort of the staying types anyway.
Yeah.
How long have you been training, Matt?
So I took the license over in 2005.
Okay.
That's 20 years, but I was with Linda as a kennel hand. I started as a kennel hand with Linda back in, I think it was 1990. So I had 15 years with Linda, kennel hand, head kennel hand, then assistant trainer through the late 90s and until we took over in 2005. So I see us when I first went to Linda's kennel, I brought two of my dogs over that my father owned because the trainer who had them at the time didn't really want to go open racing, and they was good enough to go open racing. And through a chance meeting with an owner, Alan Carter, who won the Derby with Kenny Lindsall's dog, Slippy Blue. He lived close by, and he said to me that there was a new trainer starting, and she was very ambitious over at Lakenheath. So I took the dogs over, or my dad spoke to her first, and she said she'd be happy to take these two dogs, and she'd love to go open racing if she had to, and obviously I took the dogs over that day, and I've never left the kennel since. We was in Newmarket, and the kennels were over Lakenheath, so it was only sort of 15-20 minutes away, and I think I took the dogs over about 9 o'clock in the morning or something. I was still there at 5 o'clock at night. And when I went through the gate, she said, "Are you coming back tomorrow?" And I did, So and we literally had Linda had 2 litters of pups at the time, sort of homebred type litters. One was Alan Carter's litter. One was one that Linda did, I think, and there was 4 race dogs there that were running that Swaffham, and
Wow.
so it was, it was. I've seen the rise and the rise and the rise of Imperial Kennels from the 4 dogs that we had in training. I left briefly about 2 years after, because I wanted to have a go of doing it on my own, and that's when they had the old permit license. So I got myself a permit license for a couple of years, which was which was great grounding for me. It was actually learning how to do the dogs yourself rather than being sort of taught and by somebody else, and that was when I came back to work for Linda. She'd just got the contract at Romford, and she was getting busier and busier and busier. Obviously that contract at Romford was key to her success, having a major contract like that, sort of only 3 or 4 into a training route. And then obviously from Romford we went to Walthamstow, and we went from 4 dogs to over 100 dogs, but the success has just been incredible. It's been an amazing journey, really, and obviously once I took over the license myself in 2005, I think that's my one of my proudest moments in my life was when I see the card at Walthamstow, and the dogs are under my name, Mark Wallace. And I remember there's quite a lot of people in the crowd going, "Who's this Mark Wallace then?" And somebody, "Oh, that was the assistant to Linda Jones. He's took over the license." God, he can't be any good, they used to say. So I think I proved a few people wrong there. And I think that day, I think we had something like 12 runners, and we won the A3, the A2, the A1, the S2, the S1, and the M1 that night.
Not bad start.
it wasn't. And I thought, well, if they don't know who I am after that meeting, they never will. Like,
My next question was going to be, did you get nervous when you first started out and feel the pressure, and then you come out with a statement like that? And I'm guessing you never did.
I was really nervous that night, that first night, that the actual card had Mark Wallis on it. Like, that was such a nervous night for me. I thought, it's all going to go. We're not going to have a winner. It's going to go. It's going to go proper tits up, but it didn't. Like, and then I think sort of we had our first open race winner. I had my first open race winner under my name. A few days later, wherever that might be, and then. It was tough. Like, that first 6 months. Linda. One of the things that we spoke about. Was that when I took over, I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to, do it my own way and find my own mistakes and everything. And you learn from your mistakes, and I think I did. Like, the first 6 months was brutally hard. It was 3 or 4 months before we had a good kennel, obviously taken over from Linda. The kennel was in good order, having a contract at Walthamstow. The first 6 months we couldn't win a competition, and then bang, it all come the last 6 months of the year. I think we won 7 category ones in the final 6 months of the year. We had a little dog, Fino one, that won the Peterborough Puppy Derby, which was a category 2 at the time, and that was in June, I think. And obviously Patrick Janssens was my assistant trainer. Well, that itself tells you what we shouldn't really ever been struggling when we got the likes of me and Patrick, and Sid, who's still here now, working with us, and obviously Pete Vernon, who sadly passed away a few years ago. We had a fantastic staff, and the rest is history. We just achieved so much in those early years with Linda, and then particularly from 2005, and winning that 100th individual category 1 last year with Vargar. Obviously Liam was with me at the time, because we had New Destiny in the final as well, and she was on fire, Vargar, and she won the race brilliantly, and we both thought she would, to be honest with you. And I don't think Liam's probably seen me so emotional that night.
No.
Really?
No, there was a tear that night.
That 100th category 1 was really special, really special.
Do you feel pressure now, or do you get nervous now?
I do get nervous inside, but I never let it show. Okay. I think Sid even said to me the other day, the people who are great, in their sports, if you didn't get nervous inside, you wouldn't be as good as you was. But if you let it show on the outside, everything will go wrong. That can go wrong. So whether you are nervous a little bit inside, like, which I am, I think they know when I'm nervous, because I'll start lighting up one cigarette after the other, like, and but I don't let it show. The way we do things, we have, the whole kennel, the staff, fantastic. Their calmness, on big race days is unbelievable. We just stick to that routine. I might be thinking, God, is that dog out there in the paddock? Please don't do anything wrong. Like, and you're racing tonight, but everybody sticks to that routine, sticks to, what we do best, and it comes off. I think one of the key things with our dogs is they probably don't even know they're going racing until they get their race feed, sort of at around sort of 1:30 sort of thing, and then virtually with the kenneling these days being so early, where they're almost going on the van, by 2:00 these days, aren't they? Because obviously we 2 or 3 hours to travel to most places, like, so that they don't even know they're really racing, although the good dogs can sense it. They can. The proper Eris's and the Mongies, well, New Destinies, they can sense that they're racing that day. I think they just know, But most of the others wouldn't even know. Like, I think that's another great thing. That if I was ever to teach anybody else, or I certainly, the likes of Daniel and Liam and Sid, if ever they're trainers themselves, I think they wouldn't do it much different to the way I do things, like, because they know it works. So
It's definitely something I've learned, and it would have been something I would have never realised unless I would have worked for Mark. I mean, I look back now to when I was with Kevin, and I'm not saying that Kevin was necessarily doing it wrong, but Kevin used to have a race breakfast. Now I look back now and I think to myself, there's no way I want them dogs knowing they're going racing at night at 7:30 in the morning. No way would I want that. And it's not until, and I mean, there's some people as well I know, and again, I'm not necessarily criticizing the way people do things because people have success doing it their way. But sometimes, on a race day, suddenly the dogs are going in small paddocks. They'll have their three small paddocks in a day instead of doing their usual go out in a big paddock or whatever you would normally do for the other days of the week. So from that first let out of the day, 7 o'clock in the morning, they know that I must be going racing tonight. And I don't think that's any good for the dog to constantly from 7 o'clock in the morning because they love it and they get wound up and they want to do it. And I don't know what you think, Mark, but I think from that early in the morning, I don't think that can be a good thing.
they could lose their race in that time between 7 o'clock and time they get on the van. Just take a look at Fabulous Sonique when she's in the race. I'm thinking now, I'm shaking my head. She's going up and down like her tail's going round. She's flying up and down those paddocks. And you think, how can she possibly run so good tonight? She must have done 1,000 yards in those paddocks, like in 2 or 3 let outs. Yet she still bangs out and won nearly 50 opens. So it's amazing, really. And sometimes you just got to, you got your method, it works, stick by it, and every trainer's different. And I'll never knock any trainer the way they do things. Certain trainers will do it completely different to us and they still get great results. Feeding side and all that, galloping, if that's what gives them peace of mind and they can see it's working and they're getting good results, then carry on. Like, don't let anything that I say change that. It's one of the worst things you can do is take somebody else's advice because it might not work for your particular kennel.
So Mark Prescott did a podcast in it, and he said there's lots of different ways to train a horse, as long as you're getting them very, very fit and they're very healthy and very happy. It don't matter how you do it, kind of thing. And I think if you just find that works for you, I mean, I have to stay away. I can't hide my nerves. I'm just, I am a nightmare. Our first Cat 1 final at Sunderland, we went in separate cars. I made Keely take the dog in the van, and I drove up. I am a nightmare.
That was probably a very good idea because those dogs will pick up on those nerves. Yeah. They can sense it. I'm pretty
Derby
certain.
final night, nothing. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And it was just totally different. But I don't know, when the pups are starting out, especially in the big races, I'm real bad. So, even with the whippets, I'm bad.
Good job, Keely's in charge.
Yeah, but I watched it. I watched it with Teak in his first race at Monmouth. I was there, and just the way she handles things, and I watched her behind the boxes, and there's just that calmness. And like, I'll speak to Daniel at the track. He must be one of the most, and Patrick's the same. They must be about the most horizontal people on the planet. Like, there's just
you're not met, Mark. He's relaxed.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good way to be. But I mean, if you didn't get nervous, and I'm sure people like Patrick, inside they are, when those dogs are running, when those traps open, those dogs are running around. That's when you suddenly your dog hits the front. You will see the likes of me and Patrick roaring them home like no tomorrow. That's our emotion coming out because we've kept it in for the last few days.
Yeah.
That's not because the dogs have hit the front. That is probably literally raw emotion that's built up over the last couple of days, and you can't help but give it large, like, so I think it's a relief. Anything, it's the most nervous obviously I've ever been was when we had kind of ready running in the derby, and I genuinely thought we was going to win, and I thought we had I didn't care what price he was. That dog was absolutely spot on as spot on could be. He was telling us he was ready to run a mighty race, and he got a big bump out the traps. He was running from track 5 in his Arela. The bump dropped him behind, which created the gap on the inside, which he dived into, and that was what won him the race, like, but that is the most nervous I've ever been for a race. But I never took the dogs down for kenneling. That was Patrick and Cheryl went down for kenneling. I actually came down later because I brought stopped at the kennels until we'd finished, and then brought the rest of the staff and everything down. So I think it was a good thing that I didn't actually handle the dog pre-kenneling and all that, because I think they would have picked up on the fact that I was so nervous.
You mentioned the permit license, and obviously the flaps have now gone, and we got started. We had the owner trainer license when we started, and we've been really lucky in that we've never worked for anybody, but we were in professional jobs where we could, even though it's a wreck of a place, we could afford somewhere with land to set up. Do you think? How do you think we can help youngsters get in? Can you see a way in?
Well, the permit license, for a start, that's one of the biggest losses to our sport. That brought on so many trainers. You was allowed to keep your dogs, virtually in the, I'm not saying the house, but most permit licenses had them in say, nice kennels in their garage, or built a shed like I did for, a proper kennel shed that was, even though, you can see why they're not allowed now. There was wooden and everything, but they were lovely kennels and everything. And we was allowed to have 4 dogs racing. Yeah. And, I absolutely loved it. It was the best for me to learn how to do the dogs yourself with just 4 was fantastic. And of course, we can't do that no more because that kind of license is not allowed. I can't see the reasons why it's not allowed, but that brought so many trainers who, of my sort of age and generation, started off with a permit license. It's incredible, and they started off with 2, 3, 4 dogs, and then of course that got them into the sport, that got their foot into the sport, and most of the time got that bug for it.
Yeah, and that's what we had with the owner trainer, and then
there was an owner's trainers, which was allowed to have to 12 dogs or something, which was the next license up, and then of course, once that worked well, and then obviously the tracks were after your dogs and contracts were being dished out, that's when you'd go for your professional license and obviously get bigger kennels and all that, so we haven't got that system anymore. And I've always said it's one of the real problems in our sport at the moment is not the fact that there's not enough dogs. There's plenty of dogs in Ireland. The sales tell you that, it's the trainers. For every 5 or 6 trainers that pack in for various reasons, don't want to do it, can't do it anymore, retire, blah blah blah. There's only a small trickle that are replacing them. So there's never. It's not the shortage of dogs; it's the shortage of trainers that are making. And that's because of there's no systems like a permit trainer available anymore. So I don't know whether there's an answer to fix that or not. That we could ask.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see it come back. I mean, I remember it. I mean, God, the very first Kennel over with, I didn't do very long. I just used to go to the pickup, and he was only on a permit license. He had a couple of dogs in the garden. and it was great fun. But like I said, bless him, he's passed now. But if he hadn't, he wouldn't be able to train anymore.
We had we had a funny start in that we had the owner trainer's license, and tracks wouldn't take us on. You weren't allowed to run graded with the owner trainer's license. So nobody would take us on. We could only run open. All the tracks that we ran, I mean, it's first litter that we bred. No tracks would even mark them up for us. They were like, well, you're not licensed to this track. So no, I've owned a trainer license. Well, you've got to have 10 dogs to get on this track. It's just nuts. And now I think it'd be a bit different. They'd probably take you, but it just pushed so many people out. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned there, Mark, sort of the start of your career, how long you've been going, like, what you've won. Do you ever see kind of a time where you've got in your head where you think that's when I'm going to retire, that's when I'm going to call it a day?
I've certainly got that in my head at the moment. Yeah, obviously we got this brilliant partnership with Mike, and it's we're into our fourth year into it now. I can't believe how quick it's gone these first 3 years, and everything we do is like got to be between me and Mike, and we got to agree with everything that we do. Of course, I think we both discussed before as we were setting up the partnership that I would love to give Daniel the chance to take over, and and I'm sure that will be coming in well, who knows, next year, maybe the year after, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. Again, obviously, it will still be under the partnership and everything. But
Yeah.
Daniel's ready now. If he'd be a great trainer now, and whether that will be, with me in the background a little bit rather than full hands on. We who knows? We'll see. But I mean. Do I want to retire? Yes, I think I would like to retire to give Daniel his chance. Are we ready for it right now? Maybe not. We'll just see how this year pans out, and we'll discuss what happens. I think a lot with Mike depends on what happens with Toaster and how successful that is. We need to see where this sport's going. Have we got? Is there a future for Daniel in this sport? 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. But at the moment we've got the Labour government who are pro ground racing and everything. There's a massive fight for the likes of Mark Bird to try and with this Welsh ban and Scottish ban that could easily turn nasty, and who knows what part is going to be taken over from Labour and what their agenda is and what wins votes and all this. Maybe a talk of a ban on ground racing might be a vote winner. That's something why we have to get the public on our side. And that makes me whinge a little bit when I see these tracks not racing at night times. You've got to get the public racetracks to get their support, because we're going to need their support down the line when it comes to the political sort of scale of what's going to happen in the future. So when there's a lot, it's not just me retiring. It's some of it is a case of where we're going with this sport and everything. Is it right for Daniel to be taking on a trainer's license when there's no hope for the sport? Hopefully the sport can, with people like Mike in the game and Toaster being a success. We know how successful Romford and Dunstall Park and Sheffield can be, and Newcastle. And Hove is if we could get the public on our side again and get them going racing, then I'm sure we do have a big future in the sport.
Is it something that worries you? Because you look at someone like Daniel, who right from leaving school has committed his life to greyhound racing. Is it something you look and think, God, if there was nothing like, yeah, okay, Daniel's your son, but even the sport as a whole, does it worry you that they might not be here in in such a short term.
Yes. That's exactly. I think Daniel is going to be a great trainer if he's got the grounding that he's had and everything like. But is there a sport for him? That is a real worry. That's more of a worry than anything else. Not. Who knows? I mean, what's Phil's opinion of where this sport's going?
You've asked one there. Go and make yourself a cup of tea, Mark.
I think there is a public appetite for it if it's done correctly. I think it is done so badly in so many places. It's scary. The number one thing is funding. Like above everything, it has to be money. It has to be. I mean, we are squeezed so much now. Me and Keely have discussed it this last month, probably more than ever, that we're not sure if we can carry on the way that it is. Like we are, it's difficult because, and I don't want to go on too much. We started off as a hobby with a goal of breeding top dogs, like keeping the good ones. We then couldn't bring them through how we wanted to, so we had to increase numbers a little bit, get on graded to bring them through to then sell them on. But it almost because of that, you then need a member of staff to help logistics. It grew too much into a business rather than I'm trying to breed top dogs so I can have that top dog almost as a hobby. Now we're battling at the minute as to where we're going to go and what we're going to do with that. But ultimately, the whole thing falls down to funding. Now, you look at what people are paying, and the prize money between 2022 and 2025 has gone up 6% across the board. Like cost of living or general wages have gone up 16 to 20% in the country, and cost of living's gone up 20 to 25%. Well, as a sport, like trainers are just being squeezed left, right, and centre, and you just can't afford to do it how you want to do it. And then I think that needs addressing, and I don't mind saying it. I know you guys, it's difficult for you guys, but it has to come from the media rights companies. That ultimately, the promoters are paying the prize money, the media rights companies are paying the promoters. Everybody was going on about the levy and increasing the levy to 1%. It won't change anything for us because there's only a fiver per graded runner feeds down to us and a few grants. The rest of it goes to running the GBGB. It's the prize money that has to increase. And if that doesn't increase, more and more trainers are going to leave the sport because we just can't afford to do it. And then if people are moaning about the price of dogs, breeders have to get that one big one because of the cost of everything. Now, I don't want to sell teak, for instance, because what am I doing it for? I'm not doing it as a job and commercially. Why would we be up all night with a litter to then sell the good one on for somebody else? Like I know people say, "Oh, you can watch it," and so that's one side of it. I think the image has to change. When Gone to the Dogs was on, I do a lot of work with like the horse world, sport dog world, the flyball world. I could sell greyhound racing all day long to them when the Dogs were on. They loved it. They loved the derby. They love following our dogs. They all get into it. They want to come racing. When that's not there, there's nothing to sell. And then you watch images of certain tracks, and I'm like, I can't sell that. I just you
Can I
can't.
just step in 1 second? Because while you're on to that, I wanted to mention it. And we should have to speak to Mike and maybe get him on one time and have a chat about it. But it was well documented, and Mike said it himself. He set the budget out of 3 million when he done Gone to the Dogs, and he spent it over 2 years. Okay, and what he provided in them years that he done that was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was absolutely exceptional. I loved watching Gone to the Dogs, and I don't want to say it because we want people to go to the tracks. But there was nights where I'd have rather sat in my living room and watched that Gone to the Dogs. It was that good than be at the track. They got the interviews, they got the pre-race, the post-race, the drone shots. It was absolutely excellent. There wasn't a person in the industry that didn't enjoy watching it. It was great. Mike put on a show of, and to be honest with you, probably even by his own admittance, because it was still fresh, even when it finished, it could have even got better than that. And still, when he goes to them people that fund the sport, that pay the money, and they go, I'm not interested, because that's ultimately why it comes to its demise. Now, what what can someone do? I mean, he
I
didn't
know.
have to do that, Mike. He has proved what this sport can be, how attractive it can be, how it can bring in an audience. And you've just said it there. You could sell it your to your friends, flyball, wherever it may be, and yet they still didn't want to back that. People were quick to say, oh, he shut it down after 2 years. Well, hello, like it's not his fault.
It,
No, I've gone on a bit of a rant there, but
no, but it's true, and it does. So if you delve a little bit deeper, for instance, like Arc as a company are doing things like they've packaged. So if you're a foreign country that wants to start a gambling company that doesn't really have it, they now package a deal where you can buy all the software, everything basically front of house, all the algorithms, the images of greyhound racing, the images of horse racing. How much of that comes back into us? They even released a newsletter saying that the US loved gambling on Yarmouth on a Saturday night a few years ago, and how much money was going through the US. Well, that's not coming back in. So that it comes down to funding for me. I'm scared about the future. I think the GBGB have to regulate tracks and have to be stronger when it comes to regulating tracks and setting standards. I mean, I had a dog run a few weeks ago and it was foggy. You couldn't even see him down the back straight. It just shouldn't be allowed. Should not be allowed. So I don't know. I make no qualms about it. Right now, I'm quite negative about it, and I'm sad that I am because I love it. And I would be one that if we were running for a rosette on a Sunday morning and I was still trying to breed the best dog and train the best dog, I'd still want to train greyhounds.
yeah,
That's what I'd want to do. I'd want to go up against the likes of you, Matt, because I want to prove myself that I can breed a better dog and I can train and I can compete with the best. Like the Derby last year that those guys put on was something else. Like that buzz that we got out of the Derby. And we've probably been on a downer since then, to be fair, because the calendar hasn't done it and nothing's lifted it that much. But I think that just lifted us all. And we all thought there's a future here. And I hope Toaster kicks on and I hope we can get that back and the image improves and the funding comes in because that's where it needs to be. And I don't know who it is. I think it's the people right at the top. I think it's the people at the top of ARC and top of SIS. They're the people that need to give us a future.
yeah,
I'll just add to that, yeah, that we still have a number of companies that don't pay into the voluntary fund as well. I know most of or I would imagine all of the big ones do, but they're still low. Like you go on, say, Odds Checker or something, and there's a market for a sport or something. There's like 30 bookmakers coming up with their prices. I bet there's I bet there's at least 8 to 10 of them that bet on ground racing, use the companies and everything, and still don't pay into the fund. That you know when you look at mistakes in the sport over the years, that must have been one of the biggest mistakes. Making it compulsory, right? Having a voluntary fund rather than a compulsory. That was a massive.
But the thing that I've recently got my head around is that fund doesn't actually come to us. So even making them pay into it, it wouldn't affect our prize money. It wouldn't affect what we're getting. So that goes to governance of the GBGB, regulation, the bond scheme, a fiver per graded runner gets fed down, and the grant for improving your kennels. That's kind of where, and the running of the GBGB. The voluntary fund and the fund doesn't filter down to us, and I think that's something that I've got my head around differently recently. And we've been fighting that fight, whereas almost that's the GBGB's fight because they're fighting for themselves. We need to be fighting for the prize money is what needs to increase, and that needs to come from promoters and from the media rights people up above.
Would more money coming in though, could that then be filtered down into prize money?
If the promoters are controlled correctly and the sport is governed correctly, yes. But that's where everything needs to be changed, governed differently, and the promoters have to be on board. And there are promoters on board. Like the likes of Simon Franklin, if you speak to Simon Franklin, genuine dogma, like proper dogma. It's not about it's not about money. It is about, yes, he has to make a profit, but he genuinely loves dog racing. Same with Mike taking over at Toaster. Like there has to be that they need the business aptitude to look forward, but they have to really want to save the sport and help us.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to, and I don't want to go on like, and I'm not trying to be negative, but a point that Liam said about how good the Gone to Dogs was. Well, the Gone to the Dogs was to replicate what we had a few years ago with Sky Sports. Now, everybody thinks Sky Sports dropped ground racing. They didn't drop ground racing. Yeah, they just said that they couldn't fund it anymore. Yeah, and they offered ground racing, the GBGB or the NGR, I think it was GBGB, I'm sure it was, yeah. And, they said to them that we'll carry on showing ground racing on the telly, yeah, but you have to pick up the costs of it. Now, a number of people, including myself, was asked at the time, is it worth it? And I said, well, what price are we looking at? Well, a full production of the very top production was costing, I think, between 80 and 100 grand. But they could do a perfectly good version of that with many camera angles and, not cutting out on the quality. The viewer wouldn't notice the, a slightly less quality for around £50,000. Bearing in mind you had the Sky Nights once every two weeks, occasionally once a week, but it's probably 30 odd shows a year. Yeah, the price, if I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but the price of 30 shows at £50,000, yeah, that was something that we should have, and a number of us said we have to do it. We have to keep this on for the good of the sport. We have to keep this on Sky Sports because it was on their main channel as well. It wasn't behind a button or anything like that. It was on Sky Sports 1, 2, or 3, and at the time, £50,000 for producing these shows passed back onto the sport seemed a lot, but it wasn't. In the context of things, it was minuscule to have kept this sport. If we'd have done that and it'd still be on Sky Sports now, some 10, 11 years later, yeah, I think the sport wouldn't be in the place that it's in now. It would still be one of the biggest sports in the country. It was a massive own goal.
I agree 100%. I agree with you. It's what brought me in. Like as a family, everybody, Grandad used to come over. We'd sit there and watch it. We used to pull, instead of picking form, we'd all put 20 pence in and pull out a pull ball that had the number on, and you'd sit there that's Deerfield Sunset, Chart King, are where I got the buzz from it, and that was all from Sky Sports. Now, and to wrap up this, we are a 1.2 billion pound industry. And that is just based on the people paying into the fund. That's not including the ones that are not paying in and not covering foreign. $1.2 billion industry. Now, when you hear it like that, then you go, we just want a little bit more of the pie. And for the bookmakers, we're about the most profitable margin as well.
There you go. Good place to finish that segment almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should we get to the questions?
Yeah, I really liked the science question.
Oh, you like that one, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, we'll start. I mean, we'll get on to We probably should have asked this earlier, but we'll start with the one from the top then, with Ben Collins, friend of the show, been on. He asked Mark if you're going to be in Vegas this year. Now I'm guessing I was gonna actually ask what does Mark Wallace do outside of greyhound racing? So I mean, I guess that question about Vegas probably tells us the answer to one of them.
Yeah, well, quickly on that, I don't know if people know, but I went to Vegas not last year, the year before, for the World Series, and just as I
Poker, we should say, yeah.
yeah, we're talking poker, yeah, and just
Yeah.
as I flew in, the day I flew in, I thought I'd go and have a look at the main arena and everything. I mean, for non-poker players, this would be boring, but for the poker players, Vegas, when the World Series is on, is just incredible. The atmosphere there is unbelievable. You've got 250,000 poker players. They're all converging on Vegas, and every hotel has a festival and poker tournaments on. The main arena where they have the World Series is at the Horseshoes and Paris, I believe. Yeah. And as I walked in that day and I looking around, they were announcing a winner of a big event that had just finished. There's about 50 or 60 events on over a period of about 8 weeks. And just as I was looking in, the English anthem played, and I looked up there, and there was Ben Collins winning a major prize. Shall I say? I won't say the money side of it because it was quite a bit and
Put his kennel bill up, Phil.
yeah.
His dog ears called Vegas. That's his pet name.
When I looked, everybody in the room stops for the national anthem. Of course, the national anthem was playing. Ben was on the stage, and he looked down and he waved at me yeah. Said, oh. And we had a chat afterwards, yeah. And we see him a couple of times. He is a very, very good poker player. So, am I going this year? Possibly. The Derby's early this year, so it does give me a bit more opportunity if I had them. If I was lucky enough to have enough money to be able to go there, then yes, I could well be out there this year, but it might only be for a week, 10 days, rather than a sort of 2 or 3 weeks, I know some of the guys like Ben and my friend Paul like to be over there for a month, 5, 6 weeks, and that's too long in Vegas for me.
Yeah. Right, we covered this one, but I'll read it out just because he was good enough to send it in. And Paul Wing, I mean, we mentioned how we would improve the sport already, but he said if he had a magic one and could change the sport for the better overnight, what you would do and why. Now, obviously, we just had a good conversation, didn't we, about that? But thanks for the question, Paul, and get some more sent in for some future guests. Tom Studholme, he asked, in Mark's view, is training greyhounds more of a science or an art? Not that it can't be both, but which would Mark lean more towards?
Science or an art? I don't think it's. I wouldn't say it's a science. I'd say it's more of an art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
There you go, Tom. I hope that answers your question. Straight to the point.
I've thought about that. I've loved that question. I've thought
You like
about
that
it
one,
all.
didn't you?
Yeah.
You know, I asked Daniel it earlier as well because I said, I've got some questions for you, Dad, tonight. Come from on Twitter.
What did
And he
Daniel
went,
say?
he said, what do you mean a science or no? I went, well, it's both. I said, yeah. He went, well, what's the difference? So I said, well, I said there is a difference, but it is hard. It's hard to explain.
No, so
I know where they're coming from. And art is sort of naturally good. You've got that natural talent. Science is like a specific routine ingredient almost to follow. And
it's like you asked me the other week about what electrolytes actually do, like what's
yeah,
in an electrolyte and what they actually do. That's that to me, and I'm mad on supplements and feeding and exercise and recovery, and that's the science side of it. I think the art side of it is you walk in your kennel and without even seeing the dog or walking through to the next block, you know something's not right, or you put your hand on a dog and you just go, hang on, we need to back off this dog. Or like you guys say, this dog's bouncing out of his skin. And that's the art of it, in it. Just understanding
yeah.
what the individual dog needs.
You're very good, Mark, aren't you? When you feed breakfast, knowing what kind of mood a dog is in.
Well, this is something that I've said to yourself and Daniel and Sid. Key for me as a trainer, you know, obviously I have loads of other stuff to do from the apart from the general paddocking and cleaning and all that. Although obviously I pitch in when I need to, like, you know. But I have to see all those dogs once a day. Yeah, and the best time, the race dogs, that is, like, yeah, you know, I have to see them once a day at least. Yeah, and my only way sometimes that I can do it is by doing breakfast in the morning. Yeah, and we've got, again, it fits into our routine lovely. You know, either Daniel and Liam, or Sid or Sarah, or Justine. You know, they're paddocking the dogs, sweeping the kennels, doing other stuff, and you know, more hands on with the dogs than I am. But if I'm doing breakfast, I get every dog out individually to give them their breakfast, and we still do 2 meals a day. I know over the years that's something that I just can't get my head around. Trainers that just feed 1 meal a day. You know, I think a breakfast. You know, we use proper milk powder, glucose, honey. We can put our Storm Canis supplement in that, and we can even put some recovery type stuff if they've raced the night before into their breakfast without it tasting horrible for them. So if I'm getting dogs out the kennel, and you know, I believe one of the reasons why I am where I am is just that I've got just a, you know, just a natural awesome feel for what these dogs are thinking, how they're looking. I can instantly tell whether a dog's feeling a little toe just by looking at them, or obviously if a dog's lame, it's lame, like, you know. But I can almost, just by the way they get off the bed, walk into the paddock to have their breakfast, eat their breakfast, get back on the bed, I can tell you exactly what's right, what's wrong with them, whether they're in great health, or feeling a bit down, or in good form, or out of the skin sometimes. You know, I can just tell that by that instant 5 minutes I have with each individual dog every morning, you know. And bearing in mind we only have just over 20 odd races now. I did the same when we had over 100 races, didn't I, Liam? You know, I'd still do breakfast every day to every dog, and it would give me that feel about them. And it almost makes you contented as a trainer to see that 99% of the time they're in great form. But equally, when you can spot that dog that's not quite right, and you know, so you don't enter it, or you pull it out of a race, or you know, it's not just the obvious things, it's just their general mood. And you know, it's that's the key important thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. You gave away your secrets at breakfast there as well, by the way.
Well, I don't think it's something that's a secret, really. A breakfast is a breakfast, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's good. It's good. Um, West Country Greyhound Kennels. Oh, fill me in. I've forgotten his name, and that is terrible. Barry, isn't it?
Harry.
Barry. Yeah. What advice would Mark give to younger trainers who would love to be half as successful as he is?
Oh, great question. Right. So I would say is to always set your standards as high as you can, to be ambitious, to be so ambitious that you want to be the best. You know, never doubt yourself. You know, always, um, you know, just believe in yourself. Like, yeah, believe that you can have, you know. And one of the key things, yeah, is for most young trainers, and it's something that I learned greatly from Linda. One of the biggest things I learned from Linda is, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to get good dogs in the kennel. You know, so you've got to phone an owner up, and you've got to sell them that dream. You've got to sell them a dream that the sport's so great, that their dog is going to be so great. Yeah, 90% of the time, you know, it's going to fall flat on its face, like, you know. But you sell them that dream. You don't bullshit them, but you sell them that dream, because that's what's going to get them to buy a decent dog. And if that one decent dog turns out to be that dream that they wanted, along comes some more. Like, you know, you really have to target your owners and get them to buy. You can't wait for those dogs just to come to yourself. Even if you're the greatest trainer in the world, they won't just come. You know, you have to push and push and push. You know, Linda was magnificent at it, and myself and Patrick, we both learned from that. And you know, the key to a successful kennel isn't just about being a great trainer. It's being a great ambassador, and you know, a great talker to owners. Like, yeah, at the moment, yeah, you know, it's just me and Mike, you know, and that's the way I wanted it to go. But 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, I had 300 owners, with different syndicates, and
Yeah.
you know, there's loads of syndicates, you know, and I used to speak not just, yes, there's always one main person in the syndicate, but even syndicate members, to feel part of that syndicate, you know, they want to be spoken to with the trainer, you know, and I always did my best to speak to as many people as I could. And as I say, you know, for a young trainer, I think that is one of the key points.
Great.
Yeah. Good answer. Great answer, that one.
Very good.
Right, we'll get on to. There were some questions come in from the better looking half of Tea Table Kennels, and I'll give you a clue. It's not Phil.
We ain't going to do them all.
We're not going to do them all, no, because it's an essay. Let's go for second when you've answered. Probably Linda, your biggest mentor. Was there a specific moment when you realised you were going to become a top trainer, or you could become a top trainer?
Yeah, the first day I walked into Linda's kennel. I've never seen somebody so ambitious as what Linda was, and
Yeah,
brilliant with it.
yeah. The very first greyhound you were involved with?
Yeah, my father. I think we met a guy in. My dad used to have news agents, and we met a guy who told us to go down to Wallis, where we was introduced to a trainer who died recently, Dookie Elliott, and he persuaded us to buy. After going down racing for a while, down there, he persuaded me dad to buy a top graded 4-year-old D1 dog, and for £100, I think it was, or something. My dad would probably be able to tell you the story better. And you know, we bought this dog, and a couple of people come up to me, Jesus Christ, buying a 4-year-old dog that's already in, you know, that's probably waiting to drop down to a D2. You know, that's a bit risky. Yeah, and I think he proceeded to win his next 3 races for us. Like, yeah, if that don't get you bugged straight away, it don't. An interesting story and a very quick one. My dad told Duke he wanted to buy a better dog, and he was very good friends with Ernie Gaskin Senior. Their kennels were literally 100 yards apart, and Ernie was very genuine, and Dookie was a good friend of his, and he bought 2 dogs in, and he said to me, Dad, I've got these 2 dogs, I can sell you one of them, you can have the pick. There's this scrawny little black dog that he's just come over from Ireland. He's £5,000, yeah, but there's this lovely white and fawn dog, I think, yeah, white and fawn, and he's £3,000. And I said to my dad, do you know what? That's a beautiful looking dog, that one there. That's in great condition. But I bet that little black dog's quite good. And anyway, to cut a long story short, we bought the white and fawn dog. He was magnificent. Won 20 opens for us, $3,000. Won loads and loads of races. But the other dog that we didn't buy was a black dog called Lysadel Tiger, who went on to be one of the, I think it was one of the top open races for a year or two. Won the Scurry, won won, you know, some big competitions. Like, yeah, so you know, that was a great story, and you know, that's what got us the bug into it. And you know, my dad had loads of dogs since then. Obviously, you know, I've always enjoyed sharing the ownership with him and everything.
Yeah. Good, good, good. Uh, in your opinion, what separates a good greyhound trainer from a great one?
Oh wow, good trainer.
I guess the question really is how do good trainers get to that next level? How do they, take that step forward?
Yeah, again, it's ambition, it's work ethic. You know, you have to. You just got to be dogs 24/7, and just if like I think in my peak. Um, I'm not saying or I say one of my peaks was probably you know after we got so many dogs. I think when we had the first lot of open races for Linda, and we was travelling around, and we wasn't that well known, and we was getting more and more dogs coming in, good dogs, better owners, better dogs, and I just used to eat, sleep, and think dogs all the time. I was thinking about all I thought every time I came into the kennel. It wasn't to do a job. It was, how are we going to get this dog to win its next race? How are we going to get this dog to win its next competition? Yeah, and I think that's something that I've instilled into Daniel and the rest of the staff. It's not a job. It's how best can we do these dogs to get them to win races. Yeah, yeah. And I love the breed of greyhounds, but I love winning. Absolutely love winning. Yeah, I love winning. You know, more than anything, every win gives me that adrenaline buzz sort of thing, yeah. And it's just that work effort that you get in, just that thinking. As soon as those dogs have crossed the line, I'm almost thinking, where's it going to run next? What can we? It wins a competition. What competition can we win with it the next time? I'm thinking of that, not as I'm driving home that night. Literally as the dogs cross the line.
You know what? I've actually, seriously, I've got a point to back that up. Irish Derby final night, we sat on the table, and Harry had just run in the Irish Derby final, and obviously Mark got stuck talking to people, so we got back upstairs before him, and he got up there and he put his hand on the back of the chair and he went, "When does that clip start?"
No.
And honestly, on my life, that's what he said. He went, "When does that eclipse start?" And that was how quickly it switched from that race is gone now. Like, what's next?
Yeah.
But that's
Is
how
it
quick it was.
as a family, do you like Daniel, Emily, everybody, do you all talk greyhounds a lot? Or do you switch off?
We switch off. We switch off in our break quite a bit. Like, yeah, we've got a lovely, great interest with Keen Barry being part of the team with us and being a professional darts player. So we've all got plenty. We're all sports mad. Daniel, myself, Sid, Liam. We're sports mad, football mad. We're just general sports. We're literally, as we're working, there's an iPad. Well, I've got my iPad on in the kitchen with whatever sport majors like Cheltenham at the moment.
We've
Obviously,
got a telly in there at the minute for Cheltenham.
but it doesn't stop us working, if you know what I mean.
No.
We're just sports mad. I think that's going back to another question again. What makes a good trainer into a great trainer? Competitiveness, that will to win. I am probably the most competitive person that you'll ever meet. But am I good at most of the things that I try and be competitive at? Probably not. Do I tell them I'm not good at it? Definitely not. I'm the world's greatest talker upper of what we can achieve. But when it comes to the dogs, I'm a little bit more of a realist. I still believe we could win, but I don't go out and give it large sort of thing. I let the dogs do the talking sort of thing. But we are so competitive, everybody in the kennel, and I think if you've got that competitiveness, it just makes for a great atmosphere in the kennel anyway. It was the same when Patrick used to work for us. I mean, we had such a laugh, me and Patrick, with Pete and Sid, and obviously it's a generation before Liam and Daniel and everything, but we used to have such a great laugh, and we was all sports mad then, and particularly Patrick with his football and Belgium and everything, so I think you got to enjoy the job as well, it can't just be like, I always, again, going, what makes a good trainer a great trainer? It's it's when you get up in the morning, you want to get to that kennel. You want to get to those dogs. Like, you can't wait to get to work. If you get up in the morning and think, oh God, I've got to go into work, do not do greyhounds. Go and find something else to do. You have to love going to work. And yes, we enjoy our days off. We work hard and we have our days off, and we all do our own stuff in our days off. We're fortunate that that I've got staff that I don't need to be in. If somebody's not there, there's other people there that can make up for it. The routine stays the same. But, when it is your time to work and everything, you've got to want to be there. And I look forward to every night I go to bed to get to those kennels the next day, and I think, again, that's key to being successful.
Yeah, good. These answers are great, by the way. This is good.
It took me a time because I'm watching Johnny Clayton win his darts match at the moment as well. Like, and I backed him to.
All right, I've got Keely sat here going, there's more questions.
Carry on.
Where should we go? Which greyhound has meant the most to you in your career?
Ooh, how would you?
I mean, you got to go for a lot of greyhounds there. That's
Yeah.
putting you on the spot fast. That one.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult one to answer. What's my favourite greyhound? Have I had a favourite greyhound? We had so many good ones. It's unreal. Look out for our forthcoming thing that we're going to compile our greatest ever dogs racing against each other in fantasy races that we're compiling. It's just an incredible list of great greyhounds.
I come into the kennel the other morning and there was a sheet on the side with just races for distances, tracks.
Oh, wow.
He'd been writing it.
Yeah. I'm going to get that right before I do it. So I think it's quite important. I think it'd be quite interesting. The ones that meant the most, I would say, probably Kind of Redu winning that first derby, and then Blonde Snapper. A lot of people said it was a fluke that we won the derby. It was mentioned quite a lot. There was a lot of spiteful people around in 2009, and I mean spiteful as well. And it wasn't all. I actually think the ground people have got nicer and nicer as the years have gone by. Then winning it again with a dog that had just come back from a broken wrist proved that we was capable of anything. That Blonde Snapper winning that derby, it was great. I actually think both New Destiny's 100th win for the kennel with myself and Linda, as Imperial Kennels, was brilliant, and then the 100th individual winner with Varga, which we've already mentioned, was really special as well.
Yeah. I'm just looking through some of these questions here, and I think I know the answer to some of them. I want to jump to one. Have you ever had a dog that completely surprised you and turned into a star?
Yeah, quite a few, I would say. Actually, I think we had one recently, Bruce Bruce Bay. I can't think.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one.
What about Meryl? Considering her price and how she was bought.
Yeah. At the time we got Domino Storm, she was obviously a very young pup at the time. We didn't realise how great that litter was, because obviously had the Grand of the Year was brother as well. A couple of years
Swift
down.
Hoffman, was it Swift Hoffman?
Yeah, yes, and so we didn't know how good. I mean, it was just, that was a crazy story that we was buying dogs off of Ian Greaves, who was selling us some lovely dogs for both graded and open racing at the time. And he'd come over, and his mother used to live in Newmarket, so we was always the last stop. Anyway, he arrived a couple of hours late, and I said to Ian, why are you so late? You're normally here spot on time. Like, yeah, he said, a bloke was supposed to come buy this bitch that I got on the van, and he didn't turn up. So I said, oh, and then he said to me, oh, do you mind if I leave it here because I'm going to my mother's overnight and then obviously drive back in the morning? Can I? Have you got space for it? Yeah, of course we have here. And I said, and of course I've got our 2 or 3 dogs that we bought, and I went to get this bitch at the back there, and there was this little thing staring at me with these great big goofy teeth, and I looked at her and she jumped straight out, was really friendly, put her in the paddock. All the girls there at the time, they were making a fuss of her. And I thought, oh, I've got to do it. All right, Ian, how much do you want for her?
No way.
Yeah. He said, oh, that'd be handy if you could buy her. He said, it saved me having to drive her all the way back to being on the van that long. Yeah. Anyway, she was a couple of grand or whatever, so, I said, I'll drop the money down to him in the morning sort of thing before he left Newmarket to go back home. And that was a famous story. I sold her that day to a new owner. And, the rest is history. She would go down as one of the all-time greats in Imperial Kennels, one of the all-time greats in the sport, and literally, was the you if you'd have looked at her, you'd have struggled to pay a couple of £100 for her if I was the most massive overshot jaw that you've ever seen. And didn't was sort of rolling over on her belly as you went to stroke her and all that sort of thing, and she turned out to be an absolute machine. Still one of the greatest races that I love watching is a performance in the not the one-off race, the at Nottingham.
Select stakes.
Select stakes, yeah. Sorry, that select stakes that she beat. Oh, what a race that was! And she come out the traps unbelievable. It was like proper heiress at the Winter Derby, So yeah, just a great bitch. And we had her back at the kennel before she passed away as well. And I think she loved being back at the kennel and enjoyed her last couple of years back at the kennel. Sarah made such a fuss of her. And really looked after and the rest of the team as well, So tremendous bitch she was.
Yeah, brilliant. Most naturally talented greyhound you've ever trained?
Naturally talented greyhound, blonde snapper.
Blonde snapper. There we go. Is there one race that stands out as your biggest moment?
Have we had that one already?
Have we? Oh, we might have done.
Race that's
I've not gone in an order. That's the problem. I should have really done.
Yeah.
First derby.
Yeah. I think we said that before.
Yeah. There we go then. Is there a dog you've ever trained that you feel never quite got the recognition it deserved?
A couple, yeah, definitely. Aero Majestic.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah, good answer.
I thought that was a fabulous dog in a high class.
Great stud as well.
Era and unbelievably good a stud for an English race dog sort of thing. Very, very good and tremendous strike rate on open races. And that was all down to Stuart Forsyth, the owner, his promotion of that dog. And that's what you got to do with a stud dog. You almost have to sell your soul, don't you, to get people to put brood bitches to it. So that's again, that's more Phil's sphere than mine. I've not really been into the breeding like Phil and a number of other people have. So.
Yeah.
Another one as well. What was the question again? I'll say that underrated.
A dog you trained that you never feel quite got the recognition he deserved or they deserved.
I'd say I'm sure there's another one. I was thinking that question the other day. I'll come back to you on that.
All right. We've got one that I know, Keeley, who is to the left of Phil, that really wants you to answer, and it's: what is the most chaotic or stressful race night you've ever had as a trainer?
Probably last year doing those trainers championship on my own, while everybody was down somewhere else, winning or getting all the glory. Doing 8 dogs on me own. None of them winning, and we still come away with the trophy. How lucky is that?
Unbelievable. Can I throw in the hat the Sunderland one where you ended up late? Did you break down, or something went wrong, and you literally got there with seconds to go before kenneling? Otherwise, they were non-runners.
That's happened a few times over the years, I think. Yeah, yeah, they can be quite stressful. But every trainer, every owner knows this now. That the roads, oh geez, it's they're so bad, aren't they, in this country? You can literally give yourself 4 hours to do an hour journey and still be late, can't you? It's it is stressful. Driving anywhere these days, it's not stressful once you're at the track, but the roads and everything are shocking, aren't they? That is um, uh, a part that people don't realise.
Yeah.
What's your favourite track?
That's one of the quick fire questions. That is.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Oh,
Save it. Save it.
Ruined the pod.
My favourite track is Monmouth.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm not surprised. We do a lot of Monmouth, don't we, as well?
Yeah, I love Monmouth.
So.
I love the kennels. I love the staff. I love the people who work there. I love the race goers who go there. They're very appreciative, and I just find it's a lovely 480, a lovely distance for the dogs, and maybe 15 years ago it needed a little bit of work, and they rejigged it a few times, and I think the last 7, 8 years onwards, it's been magnificent. One of the finest ground tracks you could. There's loads of good ones as well. Mum was my favourite.
I think it's probably got one of the steepest cambers. I think that's why they run the bends well. The camber on the bends are really impressive at Monmouth, aren't they?
You can win there with years ago it used to be a railers track. Now I think a middle to wide has got just as equal chance as a rail. I think it's a very fair track. I think we have some great tracks. I love. Obviously Toaster is phenomenal. Hove we love. One of the luckiest tracks that were for us is, believe it or not, is Sunderland. Strike rate for winning competitions there is just incredible. And we very rarely go there. Romford does everything right. I think we've won something like 40 category ones at Romford. With the I might be wrong there, but I bet it's not too far off. You got the because you got the 3 575 competitions. You've got the Puppy Derby, you've got the Golden Sprint, and occasionally they've had the Cesarewitch and the TV Trophy. Well, and we've won both the Cesarewitch and the TV Trophy at Romford. So, for Category 1 wins, I would say we've probably won the most at Romford. So, why wouldn't you love that place if you won that many?
Yeah. Good. Right. We'll finish off. We've got a set of quick fire questions, and you're going to be the first person to answer them, just because they're basically yes or no's. But as you're the first trainer we've had as a guest with the quick fire questions, you're going to be first to go through them. So, right, here we go then. Gallop or no gallop?
No gallop.
Muzzling kennels or no muzzling kennels?
No muzzles.
Use compression suit or don't use compression suit?
Don't think it makes no difference. I don't.
Double kennels or single kennels?
Either. Doubles.
Both, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
Favorite track, Phil ruined that. Most promising up and coming trainer.
Oh. Up and coming trainer.
That's a question.
Are we talking young?
Or what? All right, one you think you need to look out for in the next few years?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Actually, you mentioned one to me the other day, and he's probably just not come to you now. You mentioned Craig Morris.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I think Craig's fantastic with the dog. is very, very good. He was great when he worked for the Keatleys, and they were such hard dogs to beat in the finals. They were so, and I think given the class of dog and what he's achieved so far with what he's had, is incredible. Like he's one of the real good trainers. I think he's just got a great natural talent for the dogs.
Yeah.
There's plenty more as well. Like if I haven't there's plenty of good young good trainers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right then. Regards dinner. Raw meat or no raw meat?
It's no raw meat because it just gets you in trouble if you use it.
Yeah. Vegetables or no vegetables?
Although I would say on that, if out of training for pups and everything, I think they do. For young pups, they do need raw meat and all that. And out of training, it wouldn't hurt dogs.
No.
Carry on.
Vegetables or no vegetables?
No vegetables. Waste of time.
Biscuit or no biscuit?
As in,
Racing biscuit.
oh, definitely racing biscuits. Yeah.
Yeah. And use supplements or no supplements?
Well, supplements used in the right way.
Yeah. That's it.
More
That's
post
it.
race, pre-race. Yeah.
More post race than pre-race.
Yeah.
As in recovery, important.
Yeah, I think the recovery of a greyhound is more important than as we said, we like to give a very, very basic diet to the dogs leading up to races, but once they finish the race, you've got to get them to recover quickly, particularly in competitions. So, I try and use as much post-race supplements as I can, recovery, KEs, Nutridex and that kind of stuff.
There we go. Perfect. That was good. I enjoyed that tonight. That was really good. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate
Yeah,
that. That was really good. Phil, did you enjoy that?
Really, really good. Really good insight. Thank you, Mark, for opening up
yeah,
so much. And the big thing is your passion for it. Like for somebody that's had the wins that you have, me and Liam have talked about it before regards the amount of category ones that you guys win. Have you still got the buzz for it? And for that to come across the way that it has from you is like that drive. That's insane, that. So yeah,
yeah.
really good.
Appreciate it, Phil, and obviously good luck with everything that you do. You do everything right as well. One of the most respected trainers and kennels that we come across these days. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Right, guys. Thank you for watching. It was a long one, but listen, I hope everyone's going to enjoy that. I think you will. I hope you did. Drop any comments below. That we'll try and get your questions answered if we can. If you've got further questions for Mark, then let us know, and we'll try and get back to you with some answers. Hopefully, this is going to be the first of many trainers that we get on going forward. We're going to try and do it. So as we can see from tonight, it works well. So yes, that's it. This will be out very shortly. Hopefully, we'll have another one out in a fortnight. But we're not regular, I would feel. We go when we get time. So that's how we do it.
Exactly.
Right. Thank
All
you
right.
very,
Cheers,
very
guys.
much for watching. We'll
Thank you.
see you very soon. Bye bye.